So we are making just plain old sourdough. And yeah, let's get started. So I have my scale and I have my bowl. Do I have my whisk? I don't have my whisk. Let me get my whisk. I would like to say you don't have to have any fancy equipment to do sourdough. You can just do it by hand and it works perfectly fine. I just like mixing it up with this to start with, and then once it gets more difficult I start mixing it up with other stuff. So first we're gonna do flour. All-purpose, unbleached flour. I do not care about the gluten, protein content, whatever that is. People will say it matters. If it matters to you, fine. Use what you want to use. To me, it does not matter. I get the same results no matter what flour I use. I used to be on that bandwagon too, and then I started using regular flour, and the same thing happened. So I was like, well, that's kind of pointless. So why do I go through this? So I make 2 batches at a time, and it's mostly because that's easier, so I can like go like a week or 2 without having to make sourdough, because it does take a long time. It is fun. It's a great thing to do. It's like a meditation practice, but it does take a long time, so it's not really feasible for me, like working and everything, to be able to do this every week. That was 700 grams of flour. Like I said, this is a double batch. I like to add 300 grams of whole wheat flour. It makes it taste better. Maybe it's in my head, but I swear it makes it taste better. And so, yeah, I like to add 300 grams of that. Obviously, I don't measure out my stuff before I start these videos. It's fine. Hope you don't mind watching me figure out how much stuff I need. That was all of my whole wheat flour left in my thing, so opening a new pack. Obviously I do this a lot, so I go through a lot of flour. But I still say it's cheaper than buying artisan bread, like, so expensive. Especially this quality, like, you can't do that. Too expensive. Too much, but it's fine. It's close enough. So that's 1,000 grams, a little over 1,000 grams of flour. All right, I'm gonna add my salt. Okay, so I'm trying something new. I'm gonna try some potassium bicarbonate. See if we can get it to focus on there. Yes, we can. And so I'm gonna try this because I heard it was good to do in your sourdough. So usually I would put 20 grams of salt in it. Today I'm going to put 18 just because I'm going to add some of the potassium bicarbonate. Maybe I should taste it first though to see if it's a little salty. I don't want to over salt my sourdough. You don't want to be under salted because then it won't taste like nothing, but you don't want to over salt it either because that's not good either. So we're going to do 10 grams of the potassium bicarbonate. I know you can't see the scale, but that's what I'm looking at. Here we go. Great. So I go ahead and stir a little bit at this point just because I want to get all of that incorporated. And I've seen folks still do the flour and the water first without the salt, and then whenever they do incorporate the sourdough starter, they will put the salt in. I do it this way. It is what it is. Like, do it however you feel comfortable. My sourdough turns out great, so it's fine. Watch this one turn out absolutely horrendous. But yeah, just mix it with my little whisk. There we go. Alrighty. Great. Now we're gonna add the water. How much water do you usually add? 750? Okay. Sorry, I had to think for a second. I never write this down, so I kind of am guesstimating every time whenever I am doing this. Whoop. Okay, that's good. 750 grams of water. And now we mix. Mix, 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 mix. So we will just mix until everything is saturated. Once everything is saturated, we will set it to the side. We will cover it with a wet towel, and we will let it sit for about 30 minutes before we incorporate the sourdough starter. Oh, it smells so good already. I love the smell of this whole process. Is so good. All right, this is the point where I start getting tired of using the whisk and I start doing it by hand because it's just easier to get it incorporated with your hands. Like I said, you don't have to have this fancy whisk to do this. Do it with your hands. I have done it with just my hands before and it works fine. Yeah, I had to move to our dining room table because I just could not get the camera set up correctly in our kitchen, so you can't see our beautiful granite top. We just got it doing a kitchen renovation, so that was fun. Glad it's over. Yeah, it's getting close. You're not really kneading it here. You're really just trying to get all the flour to be wet. Hydrated, as they say. Get it off my hands. It's fun to play with dough. Alrighty. Move that right there. Okay, let me wash my hands real quick. Alrighty, so now we just cover this and we're gonna let it sit for 30 minutes-ish. I never time this. I just kind of go with the flow, and when I feel like it's right, it's right. And then we'll add the sourdough starter. Yeah. Alrighty, now it's time to incorporate the sourdough starter. I am working on another recipe too, so it looks different because I'm making messes, so bear with me. Alrighty, so we're going to do 200 grams of sourdough starter. You can do 150, you can do 250, whatever floats your boat to be enough for you, for what you're trying to do, works. I like 200. I've done all of them, and 200 seems like the best way to do it. So that's 200. I need to turn that off so I don't kill the batteries. Alright, so now we have to incorporate this. How do we do that, say? Oh, no, not that one. I need to set a timer. So, this is another 10-minute affair, guys, okay? 10 minutes. We're going to be mixing this in. So how do I do that? I use my hands. So I basically, it's like a claw, and I try to work it into the dough. You can already see how the dough has so much more stretch than it did initially because we allowed it to sit for a minute. It's beautiful. And that's how we're gonna incorporate. We're gonna do this for 10 minutes or until it's incorporated well. It never takes 10 minutes, but for the purposes of this video, 10 minutes. 10 minutes is just a good, like, standard time, like, so that you know you got it all incorporated well and you're good. But yeah, I'm gonna be moving slow because I just got done kneading some other bread and my hands are tired. So this isn't necessarily kneading, this is more of a mixing method. I don't know what it's called, but it works. Oh, I'm trying to get all that off my fingers. Gets it in there, that's all that matters. It needs to get in there. What is happening? Oh, getting notifications on my phone. Please ignore. My dog is just sitting, staring, judging. She really wants to go outside. I'm gonna let her out as soon as we get done with this step. Look how good it looks. It smells amazing. If you're making this too and you smell it, oh my God, you know how good it smells. The fun thing about this recipe is this is your base recipe, right? Any other sourdough that I make for y'all that y'all see recipes of, it's gonna start with this, and then we're going to incorporate different ingredients along the way, like jalapeno cheddar sourdough bread. Absolutely amazing. My husband loves it. That's his favorite. Or just cheddar bread or seeded sourdough bread. It all starts with this basic recipe. It's feeling really good. I suppose you could do this with a mixer. I've never done this part with a mixer. I've always thought it was important to work it with my hands. So it's kind of like a meditative practice, as long as your hands don't get too tired. You can switch hands. I am trying not to because I still have my ring on. So. Let's see, I think we're about at 5 minutes right now. Usually this is good. Like, if you stop now, if you're in a hurry and you need to move on, you can. Yeah. But it is good to do it for the full 10 minutes. That way you know it's good. It does look really good. What else was I gonna say about this bread? Can't remember. Oh, I was gonna talk timelines. Timeline for this bread. So I keep my sourdough starter in the refrigerator because it's easier. I would never be able to use all of my sourdough starter if I left it out all the time. I'd have to be chunking it a ton because nobody's got time for that, especially if you're working and everything like that. You're never gonna make enough sourdough to use all that starter. So I keep it in the fridge from start to finish. Taking my starter out of the fridge to having baked bread is around 4 to 5 days. From start to finish with this dough, it'll take about 3 days. And really that's because of the fermentation process. I like to let the bulk fermentation happen overnight, and then I like to let the proofing happen overnight. I like to let my dough sit and do its thing for as long as it wants to do its thing. I do not rush it. I do not do the bare minimum time. Usually I'm at least letting it ferment for 12 hours and at least letting it proof for 12 hours. Of course, after you get it in its proofing bags and everything, it can sit in the fridge for a while, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I try to give it time. So theoretically, if you were a working woman or a working man and you wanted to make sourdough during the week, the toughest part is going to be what we do after this step, which is the folds. The folds need to happen every 30 minutes to an hour. And then you do your bulk fermentation overnight. So you get home from work at 6, you start the process, you get it to this point by 7. You can probably do 3 to 4 folds before you go to sleep. And there you have it, you're good. Next morning, get up, put it in its proofing baskets, which I will show you how to do when we get to that point. And then you leave it throughout the day. You could theoretically, like that would be 8 hours, you could cook it that night and do that whole process that night. That would be reasonable. But if not, do it when you have time to do it, because sometimes that takes a little longer than expected. You have to preheat the oven, then you have to let your Dutch ovens heat up for 30 minutes. While they're heating up, you're going to take your bread out of your dough out of your proofing baskets, and you're going to do your little design in them, get them ready to go. And then they're going to cook anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes to maybe even an hour, depending on how dark you like your bread. And yeah, that's the whole timeline process. So just plan that once you start this, it's going to take 3 days before you get bread. But it's going to be totally worth it because it is the best bread. So good. We absolutely love it. Just has so much flavor. All right, we have to be close. Oh yeah, minute 30 left. We got this. Let's get some close-ups of this bread because this is beautiful. Look at this. Look at this. And there we have it. All right, so I try to get it in a nice little bowl and get all this mess off my hands. And then we're gonna let it sit for 30 minutes to an hour. I never time it, so however long that ends up being. And then we'll come back to do some folds. Alrighty, we are back. Look at it. Oh my goodness, it's Makes me so happy. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're gonna do our first fold. So whenever I do my folds, I just do this number, stretch it up real nice and long. Look at that. And then drop it over on itself. I probably stretched it a little too long that time I was playing. But yeah, there's a reason we do this. I don't really remember why. It's been so long since I learned how to do all this. I think it like builds strength and like helps it do its thing a little bit more. But yeah, you just do those folds. I do it 4 ways. And kind of just put it up together and then cover it back again. We're gonna do this every 30 minutes to an hour, about 4 or 5 times, they say, until it doubles in size. So keep doing it until it's doubled. Alrighty guys, so this audio is actually recorded after we finished because my cat knocked over my camera and I didn't realize that it knocked out the audio, the mic that I was using. So we are just going to keep going. So this is the first set of folds that we will do. I do it 4 times around. You'll go and just scoop up under the dough as I'm doing and pull it up, stretch the dough, and fold it back over on top of itself. And then before I put the towel back over top of it, I usually just try to scrape off any of the other pieces, and that's it. Cover it back up, and we'll come back a little bit later. All right, so another set of folds. You'll see I poked a bubble. There's a bubble growing. That's so exciting. That means it's working. Look at that stretch. That is beautiful. That is exactly what you want. It's doing so good. It's already getting so fluffy. And usually once it starts getting this fluffy, by the 4th fold, it kind of gets a little hard. You'll see I'm struggling a little bit to get it to come up and go over. So just expect that. And then there's another bubble. Bubbles are great. We love bubbles. And that's it. Cover it back up and come back in 30 minutes to an hour. All right. I think this is like our 3rd or 4th set of folds. Another bubble. And you just do the same thing. 4 folds. Just move around the bowl. And starting to get it very fluffy, very bubbly, which is what we want. That's great. Cover it back up. All right. And I believe this is going to be our last fold. It's already really big, really fluffy. And so what happens after this fold? We will cover it with the wet towel, and I usually use something flat to place over it so it can ferment overnight. It can do its bulk fermentation overnight. And then the next morning we'll move on to the next step, which is moving up, shaping it, and moving it into the proofing baskets. Alrighty, so it has been a full night. The dough has been rising. You can see I am flouring a proofing basket to get ready to put the dough in the basket. I really flour my baskets. So you have options with your proofing baskets. Usually they come with this cloth with some elastic in it. And I've seen it done different ways. Some folks put the cloth in the basket and flour the cloth and put the dough inside the cloth. Other folks wet the cloth and cover the basket after you've already put the dough in there. I like that option mainly because I think it makes the dough look prettier. The bread's going to look prettier at the end. And it is just, for me, it just makes sense. You can use plastic bags to cover your baskets too. We'll get to that part, but this is really, I don't use them because I think it's a little wasteful, and I do it too much. I would be going through so many plastic bags. But yeah, so both of our proofing baskets are getting floured. And I'm fiddling with the audio, probably realizing something's wrong with it, but not realizing the extent of what's wrong with it. It is what it is. Finish flouring my basket. Alrighty, now it is time to move on to shaping the dough. Lightly flour my surface. It doesn't need a lot. You don't want to add too much flour at this stage. And here's the dough. So I said you need to cover it with a flat surface. I use those pizza stones because they are the flattest thing that I have, and they're heavy enough to cover it. And you'll be able to see how the outside of the towel is dry. You can see the line where the towel is wet on the inside and dry on the outside. And that's really what you want. You just want to keep that moisture in so that your dough doesn't dry out. Here we go, looking at the dough for the first time. It rose so much. This usually happens. It usually overflows because I make a double batch. So if that happens to you, it's perfectly fine. That's great. You need that. So let it be. Fighting with the towel to release my dough. And now it's time to get the dough out of the bowl. I almost said bucket. And so how I do that is I just use my little scraper and I scrape it out. You can oil your bowl before you put the dough in. I never do that because I'm lazy. And two, I refuse to use more dishes than I have to make anything. So that would require me transferring it to another bowl, and that's just more and more dishes. So I don't do that. This works fine. Be gentle with it. Try not to burst too many bubbles. But it's still going to have to proof, so it'll still have time to rise. So not too big of a deal. And it's kind of fun to do this. Play with the dough a little bit. It's getting out so much dough. It's so great. So now I'm gonna cut the dough because I'm making 2 loaves, right? And so you need to do it fast and quick and move it away from each other because it will reconnect. And I try to just be really quick and get it over with. And then I'm going to scooch this one over to the side. And then I'm going to shape this one first. And so how I shape the dough is I really just make these sweeping motions back to me. And this dough, it's sticky. It's sticky right now. Usually it doesn't stick to me that bad. But this go round, it was raining. The humidity was like 110. It was ridiculous. So there was so much humidity in my house. And when there's a lot of humidity, your dough is going to hold its moisture and it's going to stick. So, but that's already getting to a pretty good spot right there. You can see how it easily got shaped up into a good round ball. So pretty. I'm complaining about it sticking to my hands, and then the thing's moving because my mat's moving because I did not remove the tablecloth before I got started. I did not think about that. I'm complaining about something. I don't remember what I was complaining about. It's been a minute. But yeah, just trying to work it until it's the shape I want it to be. I try not to overdo it because usually it's pretty perfect very early on, and then I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm keeping going because I enjoy it and I want to do it. And then I start messing it up. But this is a great, I enjoy this technique. I've tried a couple of different ways to shape the dough, and this is by far my favorite. I think it is gentle enough so it's not bursting too many bubbles, and it is fun to do. And so now I'm getting ready to push it into the bowl. I was trying to move it out of the way a little bit so I could get it into the basket. And this one did not go very well. It did kind of flop on me. I didn't expect my mat to move so much. But it's perfectly fine. It's going to turn out great. I know, I've already eaten some of it. Then we have this one to shape. And we're going to do the same thing. Trying to hold my mat still so it doesn't get away from me. And you'll start, especially if you're in a humid environment, you'll start feeling the water coming off of the dough because, yeah, it's a wet dough. But that's why we love it. But yeah, I'm in good old Georgia, so it's 110% humidity 190% of the time. And yeah, this one does really well. It's kind of mesmerizing watching it. Alright, now I'm gonna throw this one in there. I'm hoping it's gonna go a little bit better than the last one. Oh, look at that, beautiful. So much better. And that's it. So what we need to do now is I'll lightly flour the tops of these before I go and I wet my cloths to put over top of them. So I use my the cloths the baskets came with, and I'll wet them and put them over top, and then I put them in the fridge. You can also take like a small trash bag and try to capture some air in there and close it up with like a clip or something to just catch air in there so it doesn't touch the dough. But I do it this way mainly just so I don't use a ton of plastic bags. It works fine for me. Usually, if you were gonna leave your dough in the fridge for like 2 to 3 days for proofing, definitely use a plastic bag because the concern is that it's going to dry out in that time. With these though, I know I'm going to cook them the next day. Like, I'm not going to let them sit there for a while. So it's just something I started doing so I didn't use so many plastic bags. So yeah, I'm trying to lift this up so it's not really touching the dough. That one does great. The other one that I'm going to put on there, it does not. It likes to sit on top of the dough perfectly fine. It doesn't ever mess it up or anything like that. And this one's going on. And I'm trying to get it to stand up. It's not going to. And then there it goes. All right, now these can go in the fridge and proof for around 12 hours. You can do it for less than that. I always try to let it sit overnight. So these have proofed. Sourdough dough has proofed. So I'm about to prep them to go into the oven. So what you have not seen is that I have already preheated my oven to 450 and I've put my 2 Dutch ovens in there to heat them up. So they are in there getting ready. I'm going to lightly flour my parchment paper that I'm going to put these on. And then how I like to do this. Ooh, that's lovely. You can't even see that, it's out of frame. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Oh, I need to adjust my, yeah. It gets really bright in here, which is why I like to do this in here. Right, I can see, you can see, everybody can see. I don't know why I dusted my parchment paper. I never do that. I usually dust the top of the things, but you know, once you're on camera, you completely forget everything. I usually dust the top of the dough because that makes more sense, right? And then, and it's probably gonna stick to the bottom. Oh, nope, it didn't. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful little sourdough. All right, now we just have this other one to do. You see it has a lot of flour from where I floured the thing, but it's okay. It is what it is. I'm just gonna dust that off because that was dumb. Okay. And you might want to try to be a little more gentle than I just was, but you know, it got them out, so what can you say? So this is the part where you can make some pretty design or do something fancy. I usually just do something simple. My thing got bent. I wonder how that happened. There we go. I was like, that's gonna mess up my design that I just said I don't really put too much thought into, and I don't. I'm sure much more artistic people than I could make something a little prettier. I just do a couple little nicks. You do this, if you don't know, because the crust is gonna break. This is so that you kind of control where it breaks, and so it looks pretty, and so it doesn't break in random spots. Just doing this. Sometimes I do some different stuff, but today we're just gonna keep it simple. All right, and now we'll let these just breathe while the Dutch ovens are warming up. Alrighty, so my Dutch ovens are warmed up, so they're piping hot, and I don't want to burn myself, so I am just going to show you how I pick them up and take them in there here, and then you'll get to see the final results once they're cooked. So I just pick it up from the sides and run. You just set them inside the Dutch ovens, cover them with their lid, and then cook them for about 30 minutes, and then you'll take the lid off and cook them for about another 10 to 15 minutes. All right, guys, look at these beauties. That's the one from the bigger Dutch oven, and this is the one from the smaller Dutch oven. And they look lovely. Ooh, I'm brightening y'all out. Goodness. But look at them. Don't they look so pretty? Yeah, they turned out really great. I typically get them to this color because I'm gonna freeze. Once it's cooled, you have to wait until it completely cools to cut it up, but once it's cooled, I'll cut it up and put it in freezer Ziploc bags, and we just take out a slice whenever we need it and toast it for like 10 minutes in the oven at 350. So I like it at this color. If you watch any videos online, which I assume you do since you're watching this, you'll see that people get it really, really dark. And if you're about to serve it and everything, that would work fine. But since I'm not, and I'm going to toast it again, I like it at this color, because if not, it's going to be way too hard for your teeth. So yeah, that's how you make sourdough, and it turns out great. It smells amazing, and hopefully you can make some soon. Thanks for watching.